That's just me chit-chatting away. Hello, everybody. It's me, Joe Pacific. Man, oh man, what a day. I am busted to pieces, so pardon me if I look like I'm going to drop dead. But anyway, I'll be all right. We have baseball, apple pie, hot dogs, and Amy Troup with us tonight.
Hi, guys.
Those are all American things, just in case you didn't see the connection. Speaking of all American things, boy, did you check out the latest JFK file release that came out yesterday?
I haven't gotten to look at that yet.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I lost a little bit of sleep last night because I was kind of curious about it because there's been such a big, long build-up for it over all the years, and of course I'm, so I said I got to see what's in there, and it was like, I don't know what it was, 3,500 files in multiple pages on all these files. And so I looked in a couple of places where I had some hunches where there might be stuff. And I'll tell you, they talk about the East German Stasi. They talk about the consumer surveillance society we're in right now. Like your telephone is always listening to you. I've heard so many stories of people like say, geez, I was talking to a friend of mine about where to get aluminum hubs or where to get recipes for mangoes or something like that. And I go home and the next thing on my computer or on my phone, there's an ad for wheel hubs and stuff.
Even if your phone was not with you.
Well, I mean, these people all say the phone was with them. Of course, your phone tracks where you go.
Yeah.
All right, we all know that. Like when you go from point A to point B, you buy something with your credit card, your debit card, you talk about somebody. I've had text messages that I've sent that are politically incorrect, and a warning symbol comes up on my screen,
a
red triangle,
really?
Saying, not
What is
not
politically incorrect?
Well, it's
something against
we could do
Soros?
a whole show on that. We could do a whole show on that, but let's just say for now, yes, we are monitored 24/7, and you hear stories about the KGB or the NKVD or the East German Stasi or all those horrible societies where they just watch people all the time. I tell you, if anybody out there is interested in working for the CIA, all right, check off the boxes. Do you like to gossip? Do you have some sort of prurient, little quirky interests? Have you ever thought of like listening in or being a peeping Tom or doing any of those crazy things like that? We've got a job for you. Of course, nowadays, it's not what it was. In the old days, you didn't have cell phones. You didn't have all the monitoring technology that we have. You didn't have the ability of the National Security Agency to monitor every single phone call, every single text, every single email. Everything that's transmitted electronically goes into an archive. Everything. Yeah. Ed Snowden was very helpful with that, getting that undercover.
Isn't that why we need a 4-mile AI building?
Right, and at least one. The last one I heard of was being built where in Utah, I think it was, and it was like something like it covers like 80 acres and there's multiple floors and unlimited storage.
So back to the JFK thing for a second.
So when you look at some of the files, and they said that these files were going to be CIA files, and mostly, and sure enough, that's what I found them to be.
Well, there is, according to X, breaking CIA headquarters is on full lockdown as police respond to a barricade situation. SWAT teams have surrounded the entrance, deploying drones and a robot while negotiators engage with an armed individual.
Wow. I wonder what his issue is.
Well, I was wondering, like the CIA, right? That's one of your theories, isn't it? CIA and JFK?
Well, that's just it, is that when you just take a sample of some of these files, and you can see it's all old style, from what I found, a lot of old style spook stuff. Okay. That's like, we followed them down to 3rd Street, and we saw him get into a taxi, and we know he went to meet Mrs. Hathaway at 1132 Main Street, and she's known to be this kind of a person, and she likes nails, long nails. All this really detailed stuff.
Really?
That it's like you have to have a certain mindset to get into all that. There's so much of that in here.
Huh.
And from what I saw, and what's also interesting is here's a profile on a lady. This is like from the 1970s. Susan is a tough cookie. one of her most outstanding, this is somebody who's like not an asset, but
somebody they were looking at.
Somebody that they were looking at and that they were kind of manipulating. Susan is if she did a certain thing or contacted a certain person, they would use people to do things. They still do.
Yeah.
And they were what they call unwitting. There was witting, unwitting. There was confirmed assets, NOC people, all that thing. Susan is a tough cookie. One of her most. In other words, everybody can be used. Mm-hmm. You're not a human being. How can we use you to get what we want done?
Right. So it's either unwittingly, which would mean they didn't know they were helping.
Right.
They were sort of manipulated.
Right. You worked at a certain place, or you were going to a certain going somewhere, and they would plant something on you, or get you to carry something, or get you to talk to a person, and then it was everybody is just there to be used. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You're not a human being. You're just somebody we can use. Susan is a tough cookie. One of her most outstanding features is a complete lack of interest in anyone but herself. Wow. Susan is an expert on China. I know because she told me. Oh. She, as far as the woman herself is concerned, she has not as much money as she would like. So there's a little weakness there. You know what I'm saying? They exploit what your desires and what your wants and what your ambitions are. Okay. I believe she wants to dress in style. So in other words, we could probably buy her and get her, a nice wardrobe. Now, although dressing conservatively, she still develops an eye for color, and she would clearly be receptive to intelligent male attention. Oh. So they're doing the profiling people. There's so much of it in there. And I'm sorry, I'm just gushing over this because there's a lot of references to local stuff, like Boston. Oh. There's even a reference to an asset up in Situate.
Oh, wow.
And I grew up in a family with mostly people from Russia. And so we had a lot of contacts. We had friends that would travel to Russia, that knew some of the stuff going on in the Russian community. And they're in here. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh yeah, these are the organizations and the people that are our assets that are taking money from us. I mean, it's so pervasive, all right, this need to know what everybody's doing. Mm-hmm. It's so if you think you lived in the good old days and society was simple and life was simpler, it really wasn't. And now it's 10 times worse. Yeah. Because now they don't have to follow people around and, see the girl with the red beret and the copy of Pravda under her left shoulder, and she'll give you, there's none of that spooky, movie stuff. Now it's all electronic.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my rant on that. I'm sorry, I had to get that out of my system.
No, that's a good thing.
I had to get that out of my system. So everybody out there, man, we have a long way to go to make people, to secure liberty,
Yeah, we really do at this point.
We are in deep doo-doo, I'll tell you right now. And it doesn't help when you have officials that don't give a crap about our privacy and about our rights.
Well, speaking about people being placed places so that they can do what they want to do.
Right.
It's unfortunate because really their job was to protect liberty, to protect the Constitution. Right. It was to be of the people, to protect our liberties so that we wouldn't be under tyranny again. But when you sell out for an earthly rich or letting somebody do something, you're also letting go of your freedoms. And it's getting closer and closer now. It's not maybe your kids that are going to lose it. It's we the people,
Right. Right. So I don't know what else is going to come out of all this. I don't know if we're ever going to get to the bottom of anything as far as JFK. There's over 80,000 pages in this.
Somebody will.
I'm sure people are banks of people are just scanning this for as much information as looking for any little bits and tidbits of information. But again, we have to focus locally, and I can't solve this. You can't solve this. We need to focus on local things, and we need to hold our local officials accountable.
Amen.
And to that end, we were going to talk first about, follow up a little bit on what happened with regards to a recent meeting at our Board of Selectmen.
Which is very important, since we need to make sure that people are being able to run for the positions that are up each year, no matter what it is.
We need to secure our right to vote.
That's right.
MBTA zoning is all about taking away our right to vote.
That's correct.
And to determine how our communities are going to look.
That's
it's
correct.
It takes our vote away.
And takes away our property rights, which is one of the things that I learned in the class that I went to last night. Communism, socialism, and Marxism, about how the removal of personal property rights is the beginning.
You will own nothing and be happy.
Yes, isn't that what they're going for?
And you know that the idea of you will own nothing and be happy, it's sort of it's like the two opposite ends of the political spectrum coming together at a third point, where you have socialism, you have communism, you have well, actually, what do they say? Communism is socialism is for people that don't realize that they're communists or living in a communist system. But what I'm thinking, I guess, is fascism. Fascism and communism, which are often portrayed as being opposite ends of a political spectrum. And the actuality is that they both are about controlling what you have and can have. That's what it's all about. Whereas in communism, it's sort of a collective thing. Fascism, it's like we're going to pick certain people, which is what I think we're closer to fascism now anyway, where you have a link between business, like the BlackRocks of the world, and government people who are setting policies, who don't want you to have a car, that want you to record how much carbon you're using, you know, supposedly.
Well, I'd like to know in Massachusetts, when we don't have a car, how are we going to be on the MBTA train when the tracks are falling apart?
Right. I don't know. I guess they're going to have to.
Mara, can you please tell me how we're going to fix the tracks? Do we have any money for that?
And are the tracks going in the right place? First of all, the tracks aren't even in the right place.
Well, they want to close down the Plymouth station. Well, no, they did close down the Plymouth station, but they want to rip up the tracks after they built all those apartments that are down there, and those are not part of their MBTA compliance for Plymouth.
Oh.
You know, where's our state reps? Where's our state reps?
They're on the take. The short answer, you want to know, they're on the take.
Yeah.
That's all. They're on the take. You know, I was at Freedom Rings. We had a guest there. Guy, you were there. He was, well, I don't know if you, no, you weren't there. He had worked in the State House for many, many years. And I asked him the question, I said, why is it? Why do we have a uniparty? You know, what motivates the reps and the senators there? You know, why do they vote the way they vote? You know, and the simple answer from him was that they just vote to keep the game going.
Yeah.
Whatever they have to do to keep the game going, that's why you see resistance to having the audit done. They just want to keep the game going. And it's even on the local level, they want to keep the game going.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are on the top heap. You ever seen the memes of how society is structured? It's like a triangle, you know? And there's elites on top, and there's all the regular tax. Well, anyway, I'm getting too far. I'm getting into political science.
That's a good point, because that's what I say all the time. In a pyramid, there's more of us. So here, right, we have all of these people that if we all stood, that top has zero power.
Right.
So that was how the United States was designed, so that this level would control all of this. There would be no this. So it would be people, capitalism, doing what they want to do. If you want to be poor, you can be poor. If you know, it's all up to you whether you're lazy or not.
But there was always upward mobility. If you desired upward mobility, there was nobody was going to get in your way. That's the theory, anyway.
That's why everybody wanted to come here.
Right. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because of that potential to pull yourself up and go upwards.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what we were talking about, I want to get back to this real quick, is that there was an issue about the housing. Full disclosure, I'm a member of the Marshfield Housing Authority. We have a board member. There are 5 members. In a town like Marshfield, you have 5 members of a board. Each one serves a 5-year term. Initially, 4 of them were elected. 1 was appointed by the governor's office. They changed it so that 1 person is appointed by the governor's office, 3 are elected at large in the town where the housing authority is working, and 1 has to be a resident of the facilities that the housing authority manages. So that's called the tenant representative. But it's still, each person serves 5 years, and 1 person comes up for reappointment or re-election every 5 years.
Right.
So that's the way it works. So there's been kind of a snafu And we were supposed to have an election this year for a member of the Housing Authority.
Every year.
Every year somebody comes up either for election or reappointment. The governor's appointee has to come up every 5 years. The tenant representative comes up every 5 years. The tenant representative is not elected at large. They're appointed by the local select board, but they're nominated and ostensibly approved by the existing Housing Authority board. But anyway, so there's supposed to be somebody up for re-election this year. The town clerk decided no. The town clerk made a mistake last year. The town clerk was supposed to have a person run for a one-year term to fill out the current seat, which ends this year in 2025. Instead, the town clerk put that person on the ballot and listed it as a 5-year term, a major mistake. And I've been told by the Secretary of State's office the town clerk is aware of that. That's what I'm getting. You can call that third hand or hearsay or whatever like that, but that's what I was told. Yes, everybody recognizes that there was supposed to be an election this year because that's how the board is structured. One person on the board comes up for election or reappointment each year. So when the town clerk showed up at the select board meeting last week, actually 10 days ago, the town clerk said, "Oh no, there's nobody up for election this year." Watch the clip.
When you were going through this, does this support your argument that you shared with the board? Okay, that's pretty much what I'm getting at.
So if you go to page, okay, if you actually just go to page 2, it says notwithstanding the chapter, blah, 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 blah. It says 3 members of the authority shall be appointed immediately by the Board of Selectmen to serve only until the qualification of their successors. It says not more than 5 names, just keep.
Hold on, Nerys.
Yep. What's wrong, honey?
I'm trying to find where you're at here.
On page 2.
All right, I got 2, yep.
Just go to just do numbers. It's easier that way.
So let me say
Okay,
not-
3 members shall be elected by the town, provided that the members originally elected at annual town meeting, the candidate who receives the highest numbers of votes shall serve for 5 years. Candidate who receives the next highest numbers of votes shall serve for 4 years, blah. All right, so basically what it's saying is that each person serves an alternate number of years. So 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. So the thing is that, so we needed to follow that pattern. But what screwed us up is that Mrs. Bennett, you have a list, should have a notation in here. Mrs. Bennett screwed us up because Mrs. Bennett is the application for the tenant, the housing authority tenant representative, which is the reorg by the state. The state decided that one of those people who is representing the housing authority had to be somebody who actually lived in the housing, which makes a lot of sense. So they assigned somebody to that, but it screws up our order. Also included in this little pile that I gave you is a notice that you will note is Carrie Richardson's appointment by the governor to this board. You'll notice that that actually expired in 2018. The governor's council is the one that actually gives the appointments to that board. They've not appointed anyone since 2018. So every single housing authority board who has a member that's been appointed by the governor's council has allowed that member to ride if that member has been willing to ride. Mm-hmm. And the governor's council has not appointed anyone else to any housing authority. Mr. Richardson has been willing to stay on the board all of this time. So he's continuing to serve on the board of the housing authority.
I would wonder.
So his seat is
should
not.
Should she email the governor and say this
seat.
appointed member
So my
is
job,
up?
It's okay, I will.
if I choose to accept it, is to make sure that everybody is staggered. And if you look at now, yet another way that I could choose to do this is I can go by votes. And if you look at the election results that I gave you.
Good Lord.
From the town election, you will note that Mr. Daley got 2,605 votes, and Ms. Delgadillo got 2,601 votes. So I could actually give more years to Mr. Daley and less
Good
years
God.
to Ms. Delgadillo. But I would prefer to just have them sit down and duke it out themselves.
No.
I think arm wrestling would be
No,
good.
no.
Arm wrestling.
So, in any event.
Where's that
I
in the
think that, you know,
regulations?
I don't like-
It is in the regulations, isn't it? That they're supposed to do the voting. Who?
No, when you initially set up a housing authority, like we did 30 years ago.
So now it's every year.
Now it's every year, but initially you have 5 people, and one serves for 5 years, one serves for 4 years, then runs for re-election for a 5-year term. One serves for 3 years and runs for re-election for a 5-year term. One serves for 2 years and then runs for re-election in a 5-year term. And one serves for a year and then runs for re-election for a 5-year term.
Yeah.
After that, one person comes up per year, every year.
Yeah.
There it is. Thereafter, the term of a member of any housing or redevelopment authority expires after the initial appointments of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 years, his successor, well, look, they didn't do gender correct in this law. His successor shall be appointed or elected in the same manner and by the same body for a term of 5 years.
Yep.
Okay, go back to the tape. Oh my God, where's the part where she's laughing? Oh my goodness gracious. I have no words. And Lynn Fiddler goes, and Nerys asks Lynn Fiddler, is that clear? Do you understand? And Lynn Fiddler goes, yeah, I understand. Now, if Lynn Fiddler understands that, wow, what does that say about Lynn Fiddler?
Yeah.
My God, please save us.
on me, and they should decide what's best for the housing authority and themselves.
Okay, so
And, you know,
moving
people are
forward.
Ms. Chairman.
No, sir,
May I
no,
please speak?
no,
I'm the
sir.
Housing
No.
Authority, and this is all wrong, completely wrong.
I talked to town council about it, I talked to the
And
elections
town
division
council-
about it, and the elections division agrees with town council that this is the way to move forward.
Here we go, watch
That is
this.
not true.
That is true.
I have all the documents.
Right there,
right there.
Absolutely.
There you go, right there.
Okay.
This is just being made up.
Joe, you have a right to be here, but you don't have a right to disrupt a public
Well,
meeting.
I think the
So-
chairperson should recognize me because I'm an authority on this very matter.
You think you are, but you're not, Joe. And if you're gonna keep disrupting the meeting, you can leave. You don't have a right to disrupt a public meeting.
Are
You can
running
be
the
here.
meeting?
Joe, you
Are
do
you
not,
running the meeting?
Joe, I am running the meeting.
Right, and I'm asking.
So
you to
I
recognize.
am not giving you the recognition to speak.
And you see, as soon as I say, Madam Chairman, may I? No! It's not like, hey, Madam Chairman, the building's on fire or something like, no. Just right, boom, no. She knows who I am. She knows I'm on the Housing Authority. She knows she has the power to recognize somebody if she wants. She knows this is a contentious issue and to seek any kind of enlightenment or extra information. And then she understands that BS so-called explanation, that ramble that was put on by the town clerk, Nerys Casper. Are you kidding me? Voters, people of Marshfield, please, for all that's good and holy, get a regime cleaned out. You can't let this stay. This has been going on for 30 years. I've been banging my head against the wall for over 20 years in this town. Sometimes I'm not trying to toot my own horn. Being the only person to get up at meetings and ask questions, being ridiculed, being arrested, being dragged through the legal system, okay, being bankrupted. Please, get these people out of office, all right? You're going to have a better life and a better wallet once you get the people like the Fiddlers and the Galvins and the Morescos and the Bradleys and the Fitzgeralds and the Robins and the whole crew. Just flush them out. And you got to start by replacing Lynn Fiddler on May the 3rd. All right? This is untenable. This cannot stand.
Want to hear what an outsider thinks? So knowing none of the history, just watching that video, what I would tell you is anyone who is going to not recognize you at a public meeting, which, by the way, they work for the people, they're not your king or queen, they should listen to you. They should at least hear what you have to say. If they don't listen to what you have to say, you probably shouldn't elect them, because remember, the government of the people, by the people, for the people, means that they are working for you, and that when they're at that meeting, they should explain things, kind of like a teacher at school. There's no stupid question. Then if somebody from the audience is raising their hand or needing to talk, that person should be recognized, because there's a lot of people at home that have that same question. Now, how is this happening? This is not the way a meeting should go. You need to vote for people who are going to listen to you and allow you to speak. It is called freedom of speech, and it's in the Bill of Rights. And when people don't allow that, do not elect them into office, period.
But the problem we have is that not many people will run. They actually get turned off. I've had people say to me, Joe, I'm never going to town meeting again. And I'll say, why? And they say, because if I go again, I'm going to punch somebody in the nose. Or I was getting a bloody nose myself because my blood pressure went up. And it's these same people, the same crew that you have in control in Marshfield. The same crew. It's been that way as long as I've been involved. And Nerese Casper is one example. When Patty Pico was the town clerk, rest her soul, what a nice lady she was. Her salary was kept constant and level. She wasn't a real team player. She knew everybody in town. She was very well connected. She was nice to everybody. Patty Pico used to call this show, in fact. But when she got out, and then Miss Casper got in, then there was this big push to get the raises going, another raise, while the performance is going down. And there's so many instances of sketchy and questionable behavior by Miss Casper. If we were talking about a recall election for Steve Darcy, who was totally incompetent and rude and insulting.
What was his position?
He's on the select board. He's the guy on the select board.
On the right.
Yeah, that was trying to tell me you're not an expert. Well, what are you? He's not an expert in anything as far as I know. But anyway, but Miss Casper's behavior goes way back. This is nothing new. I think I like to bring up and remind people of the town meeting bingo ball scandal. Okay, now we have a bylaw that says when you go to town meeting and there's 10 articles on the warrant, you take them up in order in some towns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so you take them up in numerical order. But in our town, there was a discussion years ago, which I was involved with, where we said, how come people come to town meeting, the article they want to address or speak to or that they're interested in comes up, once it's done, they jump up and they leave. And then there's nobody left at town meeting because the place gets packed just because people are there for their own special interest. So somebody had the brilliant idea of saying, well, I'll tell you what, let's take the articles out of order. Let's select them by random so you don't know when your pet project or your special interest article is coming up, so you have to stay. And that way we'll likely have more bodies in the room. Yeah. But that doesn't mean they're going to vote or they're going to be educated. It doesn't do anything as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it could, though, because people will start to realize what the other parts of the meeting are, and education is part of it. Correct.
That's one thing I can see that would come of it. But still, when a group of people have their special interest article come up, they still jump up and leave once it's done.
That's true.
And that's not good, because I've noticed at town meetings sometimes when you have a bunch of people in a meeting who are there for a special interest article and they know nothing else about the other articles, like what you said, they do learn what the other issues are, and they get to hear people expressing opinions. And guess what? Some of those people haven't made up their minds on those other articles. They only made up their mind on their one article.
I just wish that people understood how important town meeting is, and that when people go, to me, I just don't understand. If you live in a town, whether you rent or own, why you don't go to town meeting? Because town meeting is where they decide how much it's going to cost you. So when people come, I'm a realtor as well, so when people come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, my mortgage just went up. my taxes went up again. What do I do? Like, this is just, I was approved at this and now it's like $65 more a month and this is really hard and, so on and so forth. Tons of examples. I say, well, you need to go to town meeting because you're guarding your property rights, compounded, these taxes that go on. So these issues need to start being a part of your life.
And it's an open forum where your officials have to be accountable to you.
We the people.
And they have to answer your questions. And if they don't answer your questions, then you know who to vote for or who not to vote for in the future. But anyway, so we had a town meeting where there was an article, a special interest article, it was for a new roof on the middle school. And a bunch of parents, school parents showed up and they were like, oh, we want to protect our children. It was that kind of demographic, certain ages for children that were in middle school and everything. And it was Article 3 on the warrant. And I was happy to see so many people there because there were other articles on the warrant that I said, oh boy, we've got a bunch of people here who we can maybe influence and get some votes. So that's good. If we have an extra 200-300 people here at town meeting, that's good. I hope these people stay.
Yeah.
That was my thinking.
Please stay at town meetings
Right,
the whole time.
Right. So anyway, so we have the bingo ball way of randomly choosing what article comes up. And so what happens is you put all these bingo balls into a cage. You ever been to bingo? And
yes.
each ball has a number on it. You roll the cage, you reach into the cage, you pick out a ball. It says, B12. Then you mark your bingo card. Well, we have that system here for picking articles for town meeting. Mm-hmm. So the town meeting starts, and we're going to play this a couple of times. Watch how they rig the order of the articles.
We're going to roll the ball. I really like the sound of that. Can we just roll it one good time? Okay. And we're going to take out two articles. We're going to take out two balls. The first one will be the number in green is the article that's on deck, and then we're going to draw another number to let the people know who's coming up next. That helps with our efficiency. So, who's first? Article 3 will be the middle school roof article. And what's on deck?
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator.
Now you see what happens. The moderator, Mr. Robinson, goes, okay, what's the first article? Let's find out what the first article goes. And while he's saying that, what do you notice? Maurice Casper, with her left hand, picks something up off of the desk in front of her where there is a rack. There's an obvious straight
like a Scrabble rack.
Like a Scrabble rack. And she picks an object up and it's in her left hand. Mm-hmm. And that's where I know that she keeps the bingo balls.
Okay.
Right? Watch her hand. Notice her left hand. It reaches down. There, take notice. She picks it up. She's looking at it. And now watch Attorney Galvin. That's your town council. Watch him.
Wow.
Watch him. The moderator's asking,
look at
what's the first article? Now Reese is rolling the cage and she's smiling like it's a big joke. The moderator's asking, what's the first article? What's the first article? Watch the town council. Watch his hand. 3. He knows it's 3. Now watch Don Gibson, the guy with the glasses to the right of the town council. Watch. He puts 3 up on the display board before anybody says what the article is.
He did it before even Galvin said.
Right. And now watch the illuminated sign where it says guest. That's the next article on deck. Now, the cage hasn't been rolled. Nobody's asked for the on-deck article. Now, Naresh is going, oh, I'm so surprised. Oh, my goodness. And look at Don Gibson. On the sign in front of him, he puts up Article 3 and on-deck Article 2 before anybody says anything.
Wow.
So he knew it was going to be 3 and 2 right off the bat. Watch it again in slow motion.
The ball.
Watch. See her hand. She picks it up.
The sound of that. Can we just roll it?
Galvin's kind of looking out at the audience.
No.
Naresh is smiling like, oh, that's cute. That's cute, Jim. Yeah, I'll roll it so you can hear that nice
sound. But she
sound.
already picked up the tile.
We're going to take out 2 articles.
We're going to take out 2 balls. Did she take out 2 balls? Did she even reach into the cage? No.
Green
Galvin's looking, hey.
Is the article that's on deck, and then...
Wow.
And Gibson is already punching in the number on the display
I am so
board.
sad watching this.
And when people go, wow, what a surprise that the article that the big mob is here for comes up. What a coincidence. What an amazing coincidence that article came up first. Yay, we can all go home. And that's another way you keep the voters happy if you're in control, if you're the regime and you're in control, is that what you're doing is you're telling the voters, we're going to take care of you folks. Just keep voting for us, and we'll make sure you don't have to sit through one of those long, tedious, contentious town meetings.
No, they want them out of the way so they
want
don't
them
vote
gone.
for anything else.
And so they can go home and watch TV, and the rest of us suckers, I shouldn't say that, the rest of us warriors, the rest of us defenders of democracy and accountability and transparency have to stay there and slog it out. Like I've slogged it out over hundreds and hundreds of votes, okay? Being defeated, being slapped down, being ridiculed, being sworn at.
This is just wrong. They should all be ashamed of themselves.
They should be in jail.
Yeah, well, I would
No,
say that.
ashamed. I'd say they should be in jail.
They should be ashamed as well. I mean,
Right.
like, you should never cheat. Isn't that something we learned when we were kids? I don't know. Maybe it was our family. We were sports oriented. But cheat, never beat. I mean, like, you play a game of chess with your brother and you, like, cheat a little bit and you win. Do you win? No, you don't. And if the price is our freedom and our safety, which this is where we're going to, or what about all the people that you're cheating out of their house? What about that? What about like, oh, we need to do this for the kids? Well, that $50 a month means they're not going to eat. So really, what are you doing, people? There's no affordable housing with higher taxes.
I've done a lot of bad things in my life. I've probably taken things I shouldn't have taken. I've probably been mean to people and said mean things. Yes,
Do you regret it and feel sorry though? That's the difference.
I remember it.
So then when you see
there's some
them,
things I can't remember, mercifully, but I know that I've done some bad things.
we're human.
Right. I've done some bad things.
But if you ask for forgiveness, but would you do that?
We're going to have an on-air confession right now.
Hold on, let me put
Call
on
in.
a priest
Put
thing.
on your cassock and your collar, okay? We should have we don't have the control room hotline operating tonight, unfortunately. But maybe the next show.
Okay.
We'll put on the voice changer. We'll disguise your voice. We can confess. Only politicians can call in and confess to their misdeeds. So anyway, this is what I'm trying to say is that this is nothing new. This whole bungle with the ballot that's coming up on the May 3rd. This is not something new, okay? The complaints about the performance of the town clerk they roll in like on a weekly basis from what people tell me. Oh, I went there and this is what happened. And I'm not saying that the entire office is like dysfunctional, but I'm saying the town clerk cannot be allowed to be town clerk anymore. I mean, it's that dire. It really is that serious. I thought I'd never be saying it, but it's. You saw yourself. You saw yourself.
Should we give the definition to the people from mass.gov
for
the role of a city town clerk and municipal finance? And okay, a city or a town clerk is an integral member of the municipal management team and a central information point for residents. Oh, wait a minute. Did I just say that? For residents.
For residents. Oh,
While
okay.
the job responsibilities may vary from community to community in Massachusetts, the clerk is a bonded official who is the municipality's record keeper and often the chief election officer. So in this town, she is the chief election officer.
Well, there's some boundaries there because what the people that are actually supposed to be overseeing elections are the registrars.
Okay, that too.
The registrars.
That's a part of every town, or a lot of them.
Well, in law it is, but what you're seeing in towns like Marshfield and Duxbury is the registrars have basically abdicated. They don't care. They get elected or appointed
They get
actually.
paid for the day, right?
I think they are eligible for pay. But a registrar gets appointed, I believe, by the select board, like in Marshfield, and they're supposed to oversee all aspects of the elections. But what has happened, and they're supposed to meet.
Yeah.
like, I don't know, there's some required number of meetings they're supposed to have every year. Like all the registrars are supposed to get together and they're supposed to meet with the clerk and anybody else involved in elections. And they're supposed to oversee to make sure the elections are done fairly and openly and all that. But they don't. We have one woman in this town who claims to be a Republican. She was and you get it, if you're in a town like Marshfield, you have a registrar who's a registered Republican and a registrar who's a registered Democrat. And a number of registrars, I think, can vary with the population number of voters. And I think there's a provision now for like an unenrolled registrar. I've got to refresh my memory on this. I went through this. We actually, some of us went through all the laws and regulations, especially Lenny and Ian down in Duxbury. And they put together a complete summation of all the duties, responsibilities, and powers of registrars. They brought it to the clerks of Marshfield and Duxbury and some other towns, and they said, look, we want to get this process, this system straightened out. And what they were finding was that registrars had abdicated and the clerks had just absorbed all the duties, which is wrong. That's not right. And now they're getting resistance from the town clerks in some places that don't want to give up their duties. In the meantime, the registrars, like we had one registrar in Marshfield who was a registered Republican, clueless. I'd say to her, did you have a meeting any time in the last 8 years that you were registered? No, I don't remember ever having a meeting, And that's the person, and that particular person is now supporting Lynn Fidler for re-election to the select board. And that's supposed to be a conservative Republican? Are you kidding me?
Especially right now. So as we talk about...
There you go. Lynn Fidler is fully endorsed and supported by the Democrat Party. So if you're a Democrat and you're a true blue Democrat and you always just want a Democrat leaning or committed person in office, there's the person you want to vote for. If you're a Democrat and you believe in democracy and you want openness and transparency, then you won't vote for Lynn Fidler.
Wait a minute,
because
and
she
also
enables
3A MBTA housing.
That's right. And we've got tapes of Lynn Fidler talking about how she's, we need to vote for the MBTA zoning.
I truly believe that we need to be in compliance to minimize the risks and need to support the planning board with a yes vote. Marshfield always stands up for itself, and we are tough and don't like to be told what to do. The prospect of joining a fight against the state may be tempting, but it lacks merit. We need to be fiscally conservative, not throw caution to the wind at the possibility of winning a fight that is a tough sell. Our town needs to be in the driver's seat. Our town needs to have this bylaw to keep control over this zone. This zone is the best area that meets the criteria identified by the state.
I love John.
That's just all regime puppet
It's
babble.
un-American.
It's not American, it's babble. And it doesn't even address the real issue, which is we have the power to vote what we want to put in this town. It's even in the state zoning law that you cannot change zoning without a vote of in our case, town meeting. And here she's saying that's the only course of it, to vote in favor of it. That's to vote against it has no merit, and it's not fiscally conservative, et cetera, et cetera.
Once you zone it, it's over.
Yeah, that's
Once you
right.
zone it,
And the
it's
towns that have voted it in, I think, are regretting it now.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Braintree's regretting it. There's so many towns that want to do this.
And is that, what is it, a 32-town class action lawsuit? 10 voters from each of like 32 towns?
Yeah.
Now that lawsuit, I think, is moving forward.
It is.
And Marshfield is part of it. That's a lawsuit where you can still sign on.
Yep.
Call me and ask me how to do it, but you need at least 10 voters in each town to join into this lawsuit.
Yeah.
And, I think I'm one of them. I don't know what I signed. No, I'm only kidding. But
Halifax is on it as well.
Halifax,
Yeah.
it started, I think, in where, Ipswich or Rockport? I think it started in Rockport. I'm trying to remember. Right.
Rockport.
But that's Lynn Fidler for you. She's like...
That's just not even like the United States Constitution isn't like, and hold on, let's go back to Massachusetts. We have home rule and we have property rights. Property rights need to be protected. Your house, let's say you bought a house, right? And your realtor told you that certain things can happen around you, and then all of a sudden you're next to this zone and you have hundreds of condos, and they're not even, most of the time they're rentals, living next door to you.
Right.
Go to the police logs in other towns and see what's happening next to these places. It's not good. I don't know why the police haven't stood up against it yet.
Yeah.
They don't.
Again, I'm just begging with people, please. You know, you've got a fresh generation of people coming in right now, and here's your chance to get you and your friends to take control of this town. But please, it's to make transparency and to save you money. You've got to get out and you've got to make this change, because right now Lynn Fiddler is an enabler, and she's keeping these people in power. Now, Steve Darcy's another. Steve Darcy, I mean, I don't. The guy, to me, he's never displayed intelligence or an ability to reason or evaluate anything, and he's always swift to make personal attacks. In my case, it's libelous, actually, some of the stuff he does, in my opinion. But he'll be next after, and there are a lot of people that want to recall election now on Steve Darcy. He's that bad. But once Lynn Fiddler's gone, and once we get a fresh face in there, who's a very intelligent person, who's seen what's going on in town, and it has all registered with her that this is not the way government's supposed to work. All right, this is not how to treat people, and this is a disaster. So we need some fresh faces, and that goes for anybody out there. You want to run for something, you don't have to be a silver-tongued orator. Okay, you don't have to have a law degree. You can ask to be put on any board or commission. There are people that go on the Conservation Commission, like Jim Kilcoyne did. All right, now he was terrible. In my opinion, he was terrible on the Conservation Commission. He had lots of problems with how he managed the resources around his property and stuff like that, that to me were not in keeping with the principles and the laws of the Wetlands Protection Act, et cetera. I could go into details. So you can get on no matter what your leanings are, no matter what your political standpoint position is on things. Just get on a board or a commission of any sort. Run for something, okay? It's a given that this is a government by the people, volunteer people, although I think some of these offices should be given a little bit of a stipend, but that's another issue.
But even if not, their stipend could be protecting their property rights for the future, and that's worth more than money. So when people say that it's a volunteer position, there's also responsibility that comes with that.
There's a fiduciary responsibility.
It's to the people.
And you're there to represent the people, because you're representing yourself, what you perceive the people's interests and rights to be.
Correct.
But yes, it is a sacrifice. You do have to, typically when you get onto a board or commission, usually your first year typically is like, oh, these are the laws that apply? I'm interested in school committee activities. I'm interested in finding out how the school committee can affect the staff and potentially the curriculum on my children at the schools where my children go or my neighbors' children go. You get to learn these laws. You get to learn the procedure. You get to take seminars. The state offers you seminars in ethics and what the duties are, which you have to take. And they offer you also online seminars, which usually take anywhere from 1 to 4 hours to complete. And then you're good for 2 years, typically.
Do you think ethics would care that you had it laid out, even though it was supposed to be a turning of the bingo wheel, and then you already have them laid out? Do you think that would be an ethics violation?
That's why I said when you look at that tape, those people should be in jail.
It's breaking the law.
Well, it is. It's
a local bylaw.
There's nothing in the bylaw that says you must put the balls in a bingo cage. You could pull numbers out of a hat.
Yeah.
But there was obvious collusion there.
But you shouldn't have, whatever the way is, that you pick an article, it should be done. And now,
where everybody can see it.
I'm thinking that now that has to be done.
Right.
That should be at this town meeting.
So, again, get on a board or a committee, run for something, you learn in the early days, you take the various seminars, okay, and after you serve your term, which can be anywhere from 2 to 5 years, then you don't like it, you get out. And you don't have to have a degree in environmental science to be on the Conservation Commission. You have to have common sense. But we have a tape of George Shaw from the old days at cable TV, where he talks about how the people in control at Town Hall, in this case it would be Moresco and Galvin these days, and some of their handlers, okay, I'm not going to name names, that they go to for advice, all right? They always check and vet every name that comes in, and then they only pick the people they know that can be reliable.
Oh.
I once applied to be on the Airport Commission, and at the time, John Clifford, who you saw in that video clip of Lynn Fiddler, he was standing in the background. He was our town administrator. And at the time he was town administrator. And when I put my name in to be on the Airport Commission, basically my application went right into a strong circular steel container next to his desk, you know, and that was the end of that.
Well, that's not he's supposed to put that in front of the selectmen.
Right.
That's not his decision.
And that's what's happened in Marshfield now is we have a town administrator that's picked by the controlling interest on the select board, and one hand washes the other.
Yep.
The select board in our town tends to be lazy. They want the administrator to do everything, because in this case, our administrator is being paid over $230,000 a year.
Wow.
All right? So they're going, yeah, Mike, you're getting all this. Basically,
Well,
the idea is you're getting all this money. You do all the work. You say nice things about us. We'll say nice things about you. You get a big fat raise, okay? And we get to stay in office and get to pick people to put on boards and committees and probably do favors for people and also add it onto the resume. And we get to walk around town and have people kiss our ass.
I do not like town administrators. I think that it's that don't live in the town. I think there should be a charter that says, in the charter of every town, the town administrator must live in the town.
Yeah, well, this guy does. I think our administrators have pretty much lived in town. I'm trying to think of when one didn't.
So then why wouldn't they protect the town? Like, to me, so I would ask
Well, they
you.
are.
Are they?
They're protecting the
No,
town.
but they're not.
Right.
They're not, because, you know, you go down Brant Rock and half of the buildings have fallen down. You go down, you know, the town is not doing well. So this whole MBTA 3A push, it's coming down from the state. So basically your town administrators are following what your governor wants.
Exactly. Well, that's just, you hit it.
This
You
is
hit
the
it.
problem.
You hit it. Mike Moresco is a former assistant secretary of state.
Oh.
He met his wife when he was working in the State House. His wife is now the town assistant treasurer.
That's very.
She's collecting over $85 a year. He's collecting over $230 a year.
This is out of your taxes, folks. They get paid out of your taxes.
Most people say that he is, and I call him the town hall eunuch. In other words, he's there, sits on top of everybody at town hall, and he kind of
Tells
like
them what to do.
monitors everything and acts like a manager, has a very tight relation, has weekly meetings with certain key personnel. So he is the main and direct contact, not just for day-to-day operations, but now his influence has gone into planning.
You know,
and that's wrong, because like the DPW board should be planning what the DPW does.
Planning is a completely separate.
Planning board you're talking
Yeah.
about. Okay, right.
And I don't like town planners. We already have a plan. Your plans for your town are not outdated. You have zoning bylaws that actually really are your town plan. It says, this is where you can do this. This is where you can do that. This is commercial. This is business. This is residential. This is where you can have residential with lower acreage if your town so chooses. That is your town plan. So when the state comes in and they're like, oh, well, you need to update your town plan.
Then they hijack our plan to write it.
That's your property rights.
Right.
That is your property rights. The state is not to come in and then you hire another person to pay them more, which, by the way, is your taxes and your rent as well. Because renters, when your landlord's taxes go up, your rent goes up. They're not rich because they're raising the rent on you. They're paying, some of them could be, but that's their right. That's their right. If you bought a piece of property and it was paid off or not, and somebody else was paying for it, that would be your right by having the ability to do so.
Well, you're on the planning board.
I am.
And I get your point. A planner has a very limited role. They're not there. Like we had a planner named Angus Jennings in Marshfield years ago, and then he said to me, if I can't plan, then I don't want to be here. He wanted to plan. In other words, he saw Marshfield.
He wanted to create Disney World with your
Yeah,
property.
exactly. And if you might have heard, there was a thing called Chapter 40Q, and they wanted to and it came out, well, actually around the time 40R. If you go alphabetically, it was 40B, 40A, 40B.
Q comes before R.
Q comes before. So there was a thing called, and 40R is like a mixed use state law and district, and there was a 40Q thing that somebody dreamed up at the State House.
Oh.
And it was about using private and public money to create a mixed-use district, a high-density mixed-use district.
Oh.
And it would look something like the street layout and stuff that they were proposing for
Why don't they
Marshfield.
go buy a town and then they can do it?
Yeah, go buy some open land out.
BlackRock has enough money to do
Right.
it, so they could do that.
Go buy some cornfields out in Iowa, all right? And so we shot down the 40Q. It was going to be like a grid of streets in downtown Marshfield. It was going to almost, the only thing I could think of that reminded me of was the financial district in
Oh,
Boston.
wow, that's interesting.
Right, and so we shot it down. There was a lot of opposition. Like, no, we don't want high density and multi-story
So then why would
buildings.
anybody want MBTA 3 housing? Oh, wait a minute, they didn't. They voted it down.
Oh, yeah.
How many times again? Two?
Twice, yeah, twice.
Yeah.
And a lot of other activities against it. So when Angus couldn't, there was the
Thank you.
votes. There's the votes on the MBTA Communities Act. You see, the second time we did it in December, the week before Christmas, in the dark, on the darkest day of the year,
Yeah, we did ours on 12/16.
we increased our margin. Thank goodness the people were listening and came. God bless you all. Come again.
Because they don't want high density.
And they didn't want the cost of it, the impact to the schools and the traffic. And
Yeah, that's why subdivision control went in.
And right.
And it's why Q didn't go by.
We shot down Q, and Angus Jennings was. In fact, I have a photograph of Angus Jennings and John Clifford. I know John Clifford and all the insiders watch this show, and so I said I'll have that. I'll get that photograph out. And Angus said, "If I can't plan, then I'm leaving."
Good.
So he
Bye.
left, and Hanover hired him to redo Route 53.
Oh, and what a horrible job that has done.
And then he ended up moving to Maine, and he ran for office up there. But the point is I get your point. It's really good. Is that to a point you need a planner to give you advice on stuff.
No, I don't think we do need a planner.
But a limited role is what I think.
We have planning board members, and they're supposed
Okay.
to follow the zoning bylaws of the town, which there's a map. It shows what is this and what is that and what is this. And guess what? Your local realtors who sell you houses, that's what they get their information from. So when a town planner who doesn't own any of these properties, or maybe one or two, but doesn't own enough to change everything, or the state wants to come down and they want to say, hey, by the way, what you bought and you have a deed to, I want to change the whole entire thing. Oh yeah, and we don't want you to vote for it. And yeah, the taxes are going to go up, and I want your tax bill to go up for that too. It's called stealing. That's literally what it is. It is called stealing.
But it's stealing to keep their machine going.
Well, I don't like their machine.
I don't either.
I love
That's
my
why.
town. I bought in my town, and I love my town. And I think that I love all my buyers, my sellers, the people, my neighbors, and that is what we protect.
And as they say, thank you for your service.
Yeah, and I actually think that's the best, because
is.
we're not leaving here with any money in our bank accounts.
Yeah, I know, that's true. Some people think they are. Folks, I don't know, we never have enough time. And so the guests that are waiting in the wings, Pat O'Connor and Ken Sweezy, I'm sorry guys, we don't have time for you tonight. Maybe next week, okay? And again, thank you for your service, Amy Troup. Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Amy Troup. See you around. Say hi when you see me in the street.
Call them to find out